Hey everybody, hope your HashiConf has gone well. We're in the home stretch. My name is Mike Nomich, and I'm a software engineer on the Terraform Cloud team at HashiCorp.
And I'm Robert Tillery, also an engineer on the Terraform Cloud team.
So we are really excited that we get to share with you what our team has been working on since the last HashiConf. With yesterday's release of Terraform Cloud, we're taking a lot of the collaboration workflows and software that we've been developing alongside our larger enterprise clients with Terraform Enterprise, and we are releasing that now to teams of all sizes. So in working with these larger corporations, some of what we found is that the benefits of infrastructure as code and Terraform more broadly don't just come when you hit apply and your infrastructure changes. That's obviously great, but a lot of the benefits come in terms of streamlining your DevOps and your collaboration that happens around your infrastructure. So that's great for large organizations, and it's been like a pretty easy sell for these mature organizations that have large built-out ops teams. But for smaller, let's say a startup, smaller operations, there's some overhead, or at least some like perceived overhead in terms of how do I get this set up, in terms of the knowledge that I need to get this set up, the technology, and the cost. And so what our team has been working on is lowering those barriers to entry as much as possible for teams of all sizes. So what we want is a single person operation, a startup, an open source project. Any of these teams can come onto Terraform Cloud and augment their Terraform workflows so they could really get the most out of Terraform and infrastructure as code. So that's what we're going to talk about today.
At a previous company before joining HashiCorp, I introduced Terraform. And it was pretty smooth sailing for the first month or so. Of course, I was the only person working on it, so it made it really easy. I started to encounter some problems when we started to add more people to help collaborate with me. The first one was state storage. We had to ensure that our state was in sync across multiple different people, and that presented a problem. Whenever one of us made a change, we would have to explicitly communicate to everyone else that they needed to fetch the latest version of the state. The second problem we encountered was distributed execution. It was possible for multiple people working on the same configuration to actually run Terraform apply at the same time, and there was nothing protecting us from that. So we also we had to communicate and be like, I am the one running Terraform apply now, please do not run it. And another problem that these multiple environments present is that we could be on different versions of Terraform. So we had to explicitly make sure that we all upgraded at the same time. And then a third problem we encountered was variables and secrets. So we had stored our AWS provider keys on everyone's laptops in TF vars files. So that obviously is a very bad thing. So let's take a look and see how Terraform Cloud addresses each of these issues. So this is my dog, Ducky. He has founded an awesome company called Ducky Corp, and he has hired me to be the first developer at Ducky Corp. So when I come into the Terraform Cloud app, the first thing I see is my workspaces. Here I can see they're linked to all of these repos in GitHub. And let's say I'm ready to deploy a new Hashi stack. So to do this, I would just hit New Workspace, go to GitHub, and then just select the Hashi stack repo. And then just hit Create Workspace. At this point, Terraform Cloud is grabbing all of my configuration. And it'll let me know when it's ready. So before we can actually run this, we have to input some provider credentials, which Mike will do right now. But Ducky would actually get really upset if we exposed our credentials in a recorded demo. So let's just move to a workspace where we've already have all this set up. So here we have our variables all stored in Terraform Cloud. All of these variables are encrypted by Vault. We've got some mark sensitive, so we don't expose the values to anyone looking at this UI. And so now that all this is set up, we can just hit qplan. And at this point, Terraform Cloud is running Terraform Plan on our behalf, and we can see the output right here. Terraform Cloud will actually capture this output of this plan and then feed it into the apply phase, even if the apply phase happens, days later. So once this plan finishes running, we can decide to apply it or just discard it. For now, I think we'll just, it's still running.
There we go.
There you go. All right, for now we can just discard it. So far, this is nice. We've got Terraform Cloud running our Terraform on our behalf, so we're not spending our own CPU cycles. It's particularly nice for long-running applies. I don't have to make sure that I keep my terminal open and my laptop connected to the internet. But it really starts to shine when I want to bring on another developer to work with me. So let's say I'm ready to bring Mike on to help me with some infrastructure tasks.
All right, thank you for hiring me to the Ducky Corp team. It's the single proudest day of my life, joining this esteemed organization. So let's look at this from a new hire's perspective for a second. When I get onto the team, what do I get because we're on Terraform Cloud? So without it, I could come in here and let's say we're on AWS. I could get access to the AWS console and I could click around and I would have a vague idea of what's going on at this single point in time with our infrastructure. And that's a great starting point. But as anyone who has worked with Git knows, one of the best features of that is being able to go in the past and see how things have evolved over time. And with Terraform Cloud, what's nice is I get this audit log of everything that has happened across our entire organization with our infrastructure over time. And so that's great for a new hire coming on. It's very easily accessible. I don't have to dig through like random log files to get it. I don't have this lost on people's personal machines. I just have that information open to me and easily accessible. So from an onboarding standpoint, that's great. So let's click into a run here, and I could get a little more context. So I know it has my face on it, but I'm a new hire, so let's pretend it was Robert who pushed this code. So I could come in here and say, okay, Robert pushed this code. Pushed this change, which caused this apply. It was a manual trigger. I would obviously have access to all those Terraform plan and apply logs and the state files. But I could also get more context by linking right into my version control system. So Robert, if you want to click the git commit. So right here, I have access, like at the click of a button, to the code that actually made this change. And that's really nice to have that tightly integrated. So that's great. Like I could see the whole history of my Terraform state files over time in Git. But because it's linked to Terraform, I also have more context than I would have had otherwise. So if you had said, push the syntax error into master, and the Terraform plan had failed for some reason, I would have that info at my fingertips. Or if you had referenced a key that didn't exist and AWS threw an error when you tried to apply, you would have that context available for you. So I'm able to augment my Git history and all our previous collaboration with more info now. And it's pretty easily accessible to a new hire like me. So now let's go into the pull request since we're in Git and we could see, or GitHub, and we could see some more benefit that this gives us. So if you remember when Robert hooked up the Hashy stack, he just basically hit GitHub, hit Hashy stack, and it created a workspace. So not only did that create a workspace, but it set up this CI pipeline for us automatically. So on any merge and any pull request, I automatically get what we call speculative plans, that will run on all of these commits. So I don't really have to think about how this will change my infrastructure. I don't have to manually be running Terraform plan on my machine. If someone forgets to do that, any member of the team can jump in here and see what the change actually looks like. Not necessarily like an apply in master, but on any pull request. So that's really helpful, again, for gaining more context as a new user. So that's great. I've kind of poked around everywhere, and now let's say I have an idea of what the infrastructure looks like, what this new company looks like, and I'm ready to make my first change and help Ducky Corp. Robert, what should I be doing here?
Ducky would like for you to figure out a way to improve the overall performance of our application.
Okay, cool. That's a good task. So I think I know what that means. I'm pretty sure he wants me to bump the instance size from a T2 micro to a T3 double XL. That will definitely make things run faster. And because I'm so confident that that's what he wants, who needs code review? Let's just merge this. All right.
Fortunately, I've been notified.
Oh. There we go.
Wait a
It's
minute.
running
No,
now.
running. So once it starts running, we'll get a notification in Slack that it's running. So fortunately, I've been notified that Mike has a change that he would like to apply to our production environment. So let's go check it out. Yeah, that's not really what I had in mind. I was hoping you'd come up with a different solution to that. So let's discard this run, and I'll leave a note to Mike as to why. Yeah, so now I think, all right, it might be a good time to get Mike working on the staging environment. So to do that, we can create a new workspace, and we'll just pick Hashy Stack again, and just name it something different. And this workspace we will link to a staging VCS branch. So for some teams, this branch-based workflow makes a lot of sense and is very natural. Other teams may have multiple Terraform environments just spread across the repo in different directories. Luckily, Terraform Cloud supports that too. So if we had environments set up that way, we could just specify the Terraform working directory and make sure that we have the run triggering set up properly. And then only changes that occur in that directory will trigger runs. Another good feature of Terraform Cloud is locking. Say I am investigating a problem in our Lambda stack, and I want to make sure that it doesn't change. So I can lock it just by going to the locking page and then just hit the lock button. And let's see what happens when Mike tries to make a change to the Lambda stack now.
All right, so from my perspective, I'm just changing this code locally, and let's say, I'm in some cafe, I've turned Slack off, Robert and I haven't really communicated, and I don't know that he's inspecting something and doesn't want anything to change. So I hit apply, and I push my local changes up. Now, one thing that's worth noting is Terraform Cloud can enforce that all of your changes go through VCS. So you can set this up so that this would immediately fail and say, actually, GitHub master is the only place that changes should occur that affect your infrastructure. Or you can force a CLI-based approach like this. So even though I'm working on my command line interface like I'm used to with Terraform, it's actually using the remote plans and applies. Now, why would I want to do that? This is one reason. So it says waiting for the manually locked workspace to be unlocked. And now, without Robert having to explicitly communicate to everybody on his team that this infrastructure shouldn't change, it automatically stops me from making this change. So I can say, hey, Robert, are you done with that?
Yeah, go for it.
So I'll come over here, hit unlock, and now we can see that my change will go through. So this is one of the benefits of using Terraform Cloud is that you get this workflow that you're potentially used to, and you make sure that you don't have two applies that happen at the same time and leave your Terraform state files in a corrupted state. And it's nice that, oh, I got an error, darn. So it's just nice to have when collaborating with a team. So that's it for our demo. So let's just step back for a second.
Nothing, go ahead.
All right. Let's just step back for a second and think about what we got from being on the Terraform Cloud free tier just with 2 members. So the first thing that happened was the state, the Terraform state, like the issue around syncing that, I didn't have to set up like a console backend or an S3 backend. That was just kind of a solved problem for me. Our remote runs, they executed off my machine, so I didn't have to worry about wasting CPU cycles on that, and we could make sure that we didn't have conflicting runs that left our infrastructure in a bad state. Furthermore, I think this is really important. You get this history of everything that's happened to your infrastructure really in an easily accessible place. And then there are all these nice quality of life improvements like shared variables, VCS integration, so you just push it up to GitHub and everything's running. And then also events, pushing to Slack or just like general webhooks to keep all your team in sync. So that's great. With 2 developers, we're like running swimmingly. But Ducky Corp is going to scale huge, and we're about to hire like 100 new developers.
So with larger teams, Ducky Corp has encountered a whole new set of challenges, and we'd like to see if Terraform Cloud can help us. So the first thing is we have lots of developers now, and we have multiple different projects going on, and lots of workspaces in Terraform Cloud. So we would like to group users and give them particular team access to very specific workspaces, and you can do that with Terraform Cloud. You can give read or plan only or apply or administrator access to each workspace. You also get a user dedicated for your CI/CD pipeline. Another thing that Terraform Cloud can help us with a bigger team is shared configuration, which is large building blocks of infrastructure as modules. Terraform Cloud provides the private module registry to store this shared configuration that we can then use across all of our workspaces. And then a third thing is policy as code. Sentinel allows us to apply policies to our Terraform configuration as either mandatory or kind of advisable or advisory and overridable. So for instance, let's say Ducky Corp has a bunch of different projects going on, and we have one well-known way to build a VPC. So we can just wrap that up into a module and then just use it in every single project that we work on. And it's very simple to use a module. You just follow the provisioning instructions here and provide it the inputs. This is an example of a Sentinel policy that could be used to prevent Mike's attempt to solve our performance problems just by bumping the instance type. So the way this works is you just import the TF plan, you define the allowed instance types, and then we just iterate through all the instances and make sure that the instances in our Terraform config are in the allowed instance types. Sentinel can also be, so if Mike had tried to apply his change and the Sentinel policy were in effect, he would be blocked after the plan phase before the apply phase. Sentinel also provides some other good options for policies. For instance, you could require that all of your instances have a particular tag associated with them. You could also apply policies to your security groups to make sure that your firewall isn't open to the outside world. And then also my favorite is time-based, where you require no infrastructure changes on Fridays.
All right, so as we scaled from just Robert to me and Robert to like potentially many, many users, we got different benefits at each of these stages from Terraform Cloud. So I think the first benefit that you see when it was just Robert is just like a quality of life, ease of use improvement on top of Terraform. And you just get to push up to your VCS, and it keeps your infrastructure in sync. So you want that to be one-to-one as much as possible, and you want to reduce the friction to getting there. And so getting that integrated into your CI as quickly as possible, we think is pretty important, and it just makes your life easier and better. And then the second stage was, okay, now we're collaborating with someone. And there's just a whole host of little frictions that come into play when that happens, whether that's sharing state, having 2 applies happen at the same time, sharing environment variables. Like if one of those environment variables got leaked for some reason and we had to cycle those, it's just really nice to have that in one shared space. And then I think most importantly, out of all of this is you, not to harp on this, but you get that shared context and you have something that augments your normal collaboration flow via GitHub or whatever VCS provider you're using. We have integrations with Bitbucket and GitLab as well. and you get that extra context for all of your team when you're onboarding them. So that was great as our team scaled. And then as we got to a huge stage, as Robert just mentioned, there are all these things that don't scale as you get to an even bigger organization. So you don't want 20 different ways of configuring some like auto-scaling group or VPC or cluster. You want that to just be automated. And you also don't want to be manually checking to make sure that you have the right security rules in place or best practices. And we love automation here, and Sentinel allows you to do that in a more automated fashion. So we're really excited to kind of throw this out there and see how smaller teams can use this, and really teams of any size can use this. What I'm really excited about, and I think our team's excited about, is that a lot of what we showed is free. So all the stuff that we showed in the demo, in the live demo portion, is available for free. And we really like that because the open source community has given so much to us. Like, if you look at all the providers that have been written, it's really incredible. And we don't want to just throw this open source tool out into the world and say, like, okay, good luck using it once you have 3 people or more people. We're glad that we could take a lot of the learning from organizations that have been using this and provide a pathway for new organizations to get ramped up and for everybody to start using that as their org grows. And so, yeah, highly encourage you to check it out. Terraform.io, go there, play around with it. Again, a lot of this is free, and thanks a lot.
Thanks.